how this goes. And we're live. I'm just going to do a quick check. Hi, Glynis, how are you?
Oh, I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just checking to see if, the video's working. Some look. I think it's working. It says we went live, so that's a good sign, right?
Oh, good.
Hello, chat. Hey, Judah, how are ya? What's up? What's up? What's up? Man, I was just saying to Glynis that funny last week we were like, this is kind of boring. Everyone's just being moved into places, and then this week all the shit went down. Like literally all the shit went down. Did you have fun? Did you have as much fun as I did?
I was saying, I was like double fisting these chapters. I had the audiobook going and I had the physical book open, reading and listening, and then like repeating because, yeah, like these were mad good chapters.
Yeah, they're fucking dope, man. Like I can't even sum it up succinctly. I was like, how do I start this? I'm just gonna have to do the
They
same thing
are
I normally do.
sci-fi as fuck.
Sci-fi as fuck. And like, here's what I love about sci-fi, really good sci-fi, and here's what I think Dune does well, is like it throws you into this world where you have to learn all the rules. And you're like, fuck, I don't
Yep.
know what's going on, and you're just like scrambling. But then like it changes the rules midway through for everyone involved, and so you have to relearn everything again. So
Mhm.
fun. Also, how do I show this? Glynis, your hair is fucking baller.
I just
Hell
um
yeah.
I just rebleached it and a child told me it was beautiful. So like I'm having a fantastic fucking day.
That child was right. That's all I'm saying. Child was right. All right, let's just jump into it. I'm really excited to talk about it. So, we begin with a mindfuck of a quote from Irulan again, where she details royal life and how toxic that shit is. That was so
Right? But
fucked.
like what was it? That he was like a man in a cage?
Yeah, and like his what was it? His restraint was like the most dangerous thing because like it essentially boils down to her saying, if you can't find ways to control and manipulate someone, you just like utterly fear them.
Yep.
What a sad way to live.
I maintain that like I want a full book of all the Princess Irulan stuff because that is interesting in and of itself, completely separate from this book.
Agreed. 100% agreed. Also, like, there's all different sections that we keep hearing from her from. Like, there's stuff about Muad'Dib and there's stuff about royal family specifically. And yeah, I'd just love to get a whole collection like they did with, remember Harry Potter had that, like, Fantastic Beasts
Yeah,
textbook?
I may own that.
Yeah, so do I. And it has, like, all the characters' notes in, like, it's so fun. I love that extra shit. It's great. All right, so we pick up where we left off. Jessica and Paul prepare to cross the open dunes to where they spotted plants, and hopefully we'll find the Fremen. And it ends in like, well, it kind of culminates in them like fucking running their asses off from this giant sandworm. Fuck yeah.
Oh, I have my like one big note for this is Jessica drinking the warm, faintly acrid wetness from her still suit and
Yes.
being
Yeah.
like super refreshed by it because like oh boy did I need to take a chug of water during that just because yeah like when you're thinking about the still suit and living in the desert like oh it's providing water but it's not like cooling that water like you're drinking gross sweat.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Which, when you think about it, like that's going to be our future probably is like recycled sewage and recycled sweat. Just, I guess all of it
right.
is that when you think about it.
Well, no, that's
Shit.
going to be your future because you live in Australia. I live near the Great Lakes. So.
That's right. You're all set. You're all set. Um, I wrote down this Bene Gesserit axiom, which I don't know if you like, but it's like the mind can go either direction under stress, toward positive or toward negative, on or off. Think of it as a spectrum whose extremes are unconscious at the negative end and hyperconscious at the positive end. the way the mind will lean under stress is strongly influenced by training. Like, I feel like he's just describing cognitive behavioral therapy.
That's what I wrote down. I wrote down like
Did you?
mindfulness. I've done this with my therapist.
That's it. Which like definitely works and is a thing. But yeah, it's so funny how like it basically boils down to this dude just got a lot of therapy and that's why he's super evolved.
Right.
See, guys? See?
I do like, I mean, I think like that seems like a realistic future thing. The way like they have like, oh, we'll just take a caffeine shot or just like yeah, like mindfulness would become something part of society to the point of being
Yeah.
like part of a religion. Yeah.
Absolutely, because if this is supposed to be evolved humanity, surely at this point we've realized like, hey, your psyche's a thing that you need to pay attention to and protect
Right.
and nurture. You'd think. I don't know, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Hey, this part was interesting. They found difficulty avoiding the rhythm of it in their stride. I never really thought about how difficult it can be to like not respond to certain music and certain beats, like even subconsciously. And we
I
touched on
was
this last time around with the sounds
a
of the
very
universe
silly
thing.
there was a robot chicken that Dakota and I were watching where
Yeah.
they did that and like it was that like none of the black people could make it because they couldn't step out of rhythm.
I mean, that's fair. And there's something to that, right? Because like when you think about like black and brown people's history or people of color's history as a whole, there's a whole lot of like oppression. And how do you get through oppression? It's like you need
Right?
connection, you need relationships that sustain you during those hard times. And like part of that bonding that they have is that tribal music.
Right.
So it's just gone on for like hundreds and hundreds of years. And obviously in the Dune universe, it's like at this point, thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And it's so weird to think about like these people just trying to not, because they've got the thumper thing going to distract the worm, and they're trying to like not walk in time with the beat of that. It's so funny to
But like
think about.
this would be yeah, like I think just I get it as a joke, but yeah, like trying to think about walking not to a rhythm, not even in sand, just on a hard surface, sounds like it would be exhausting.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they describe, right? They're like, our muscles ached and it was weird and it felt unnatural. And even when they're running towards the end, they get this like sense of relief because they can finally like get into a normal gait,
Right?
like move properly. It's so weird. I love the way that he thinks about stuff. It's really like stuff that's so innocuous that you never consciously uh, acknowledge. And then suddenly he's like, hey, do you ever think about how when a beat's going, you kind of just like, whether you think about it or not, you're like,
And I
yeah,
love that because like you have to put yourself into the character in that moment and think about what that would be like. And like I think the best books do that, make you think about like, oh shit, what would that be like? The same way do you do this when a character's like, oh, she curled her lip. And like do you do the like, oh
yeah.
I gotta do this.
Yeah, and we've spoken to like, there's so many comic writers, you wouldn't believe it when they're writing dialogue. Like, so many people have said this in interviews where they like act out scenes in their mirror just to like see what certain expressions and stuff would be. Yeah, and I'm like, that makes perfect sense because when you think, I don't know, it's like the same as like when you have dreams and stuff and it incorporates like bodily functions into that. When you're reading, you kind of hit this, yeah, subconscious
My
dreamscape
God,
thing.
I've started having dreams that I walk into businesses and forget my mask.
Oh shit.
This I hate it. I hate it. You've given me new
Yeah.
anxiety.
Wake up in a panic attack. Thank you so much, brain. That's great. Thank you. Appreciate it. Maybe it's just trying to like remind you subtly. Thank you so much.
Well, I can't.
Like there are.
I can't show up naked for school anymore because I'm not in school. So I need a new
That's
thing to
right.
be. So, yeah.
Did you ever like Jurassic Park came out when I was in, I think like starting high school or something, and I had these dreams of like running from dinosaurs at school. Did you ever get that?
I've never had that one. I've had, and this one messes me up. I've had like Slender Man dreams, like a tall, skinny dude in a suit with like no face. And that's like, yeah, like I legit freaked out when I saw that stuff, like the creepypasta, because I'm like, wait, no, how do you know
Oh
about
my God. I wonder if he like visited you before he became an internet phenomenon.
I think it's that it's a scary image. Like, like extra big teeth is scary, or like the long, stringy, pale skin and dark hair. I think there's just universally scary. That's what I
That's true.
desperately tell myself.
Yeah. Okay, Jessica and Paul barely escape a huge
Yeah.
sandworm, which is cool. They end up running the last little bit. They hide in some rocks. They observe Wormy while he tries to sniff him out. Paul is excited because he's dived into one of the blank sections of his premonition. So this is like new ground for him, new territory. He's wondering what the worms again have to do with the spice, because every time he sees them, he's like, I know there's more to this than I'm getting. And he has that a lot through this passage, right, where he's like kind of on the cusp of figuring things out, but hasn't quite got there. Like, why would the Fremen be just attracting a worm for no reason?
Right.
Is the question, I think. Yeah. And do you think that's because we find out in the passage after this that they ride them, the Fremen ride the worms? Fuck yeah. Do you think that's why they would be attracting them? Like, is that what he's alluding to?
I think there's probably another thing like we get to later is that the Fremen they call the worms makers, and like that with they always like we smell the spice. Like I think the Fremen know a lot more about spice than the Harkonnens ever did.
I agree. And oh man, we learned so much about so much shit in this. But so basically, Jessica and Paul, they escape. They end up climbing in the rocks some more, and they find what must be a Fremen basin. They're like, holy shit, this is beautiful. There's like plants, and there's even some animals in here. There's these little hoppy mice things that are cute. And then there's, yeah, they're so cute. They're snuck up on by two Fremen, desperate for their bodies' water.
I
So that's where
don't
that.
know about anyone else listening to the audio version, but that Fremen sneaking up on them was terrifying. Oh, hey. I like my old ones better, but thank you.
Yeah, I like them too, by the way. I meant to say that. I got so distracted by the beautiful hair that I forgot to comment on the glasses. So nice glasses.
$15 grand total. Like
should get them on the show. That is so ridiculously cheap. The cheapest I can get glasses over here is like $100.
I know, that's my last pair was the cheapest I'd ever gotten, and it was like $96.
That's amazing.
Like,
$15.
I don't know if I hope there's something. I just used Zenny, but I don't know if there's a place like that for Australia. But yeah, like the frames market is a racket.
Yeah, it's a fucking racket, man. Don't buy that designer shit. You don't need it. Giselle the Gazelle. Hello, lovely folks.
Hello.
I agree, Glynis. Your hair and glasses are awesome. And also says, you are so right.
That her hair is also awesome. So.
Oh, fuck yeah. Got the awesome hair crew in the chat. You are so right. They did such a good job with that scene in the audiobook. Now I have to listen to it again even more. Dakota says, hi, Dakota. I super hope Paul rides one sometime in the book before it ends. Me too, man. Me too.
Knowing Paul and how he is a Mary Sue, he would probably be very good at it.
Right? All the time. Just he's like, oh, I don't know what to... Oh, I killed a guy. Like, we'll get to that.
Here I go killing again.
Here I go, boy. So, Kynes, fuck, this scene is sick and sad again. This guy is like the original George R.R., don't you reckon?
Yep.
And it's funny because I think it's the same publisher that I'm reading from as well, like Sci-Fi Works. They both published Game of Thrones and this one. So they just love, spoiler, people dying. So Kynes has been left in the desert for dead by the Harkonnens. He's delirious. He's like smelling the pre-spice gases that like cause explosions, and he's like, I have to get out of here, I'm gonna fucking die. And but he's like doesn't have a still suit, he's like hot, sweaty, and like has no water, and so he's like trying to escape. And then so the highest function of ecology is understanding consequences. The voice shocked him because he recognized it and knew the owner of it was dead. It was the voice of his father, who had been the planetologist here before him. His father, long dead, killed in the cave-in at Plaster Basin. And we learned so much about Kynes, albeit through this like hallucination, or this hallucinated conversations that he's having. Like, he's essentially always lived on Arrakis. He's never seen water open to the sky, except for pictures. That his dream to terraform the planet was drilled into him by his father, who was obviously strict, but who he obviously also loves. And they only need control of 3% of the planet's ecology to make it self-sustainable.
Right?
Very low. Yeah. I didn't expect that. And he also Kynes' father believed in grouping law and religion together. Not sure how I feel about that, but that's
my favorite quote from the dad was, it's the masses and the leavings that occupy our attention, for they are more valuable than has ever been suspected. Which is like, yeah, like everyone underestimates the Fremen.
Yes, all the time. And they are so badass consistently. Like every scene that we get with them, more badass shit. It just keeps superseding itself. It's really fun. So he says that people should be punished by law for like ecological sin, which I also somewhat agree with.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah. I mean, I don't subscribe to the whole like combining religion and legislation together. I think those things should be separate, but I understand what he was going for, which is like making people deathly afraid enough that they will stop killing things.
Right.
Which there's something to that for sure. So
it's a very chaotic good mentality.
Yeah, that's exactly how I describe it. Yep, that's right on money. So Kynes is too weak from the desert to escape the explosion that kills him. He knows that he's done his duty in asking the Fremen to protect Paul. And his final thought, it occurred to Kynes that his father and all the other scientists were wrong, that the most persistent principles of the universe were accident and error.
It's
before
true.
He fucking gets exploded. Yeah, man. Chaos theory. There's a reason that so many people
we were just listening to a book, and someone was talking about productive chaos. That if people stopped taking plea bargains, it would create productive chaos. And I'm like, I love the idea of productive chaos.
Yeah, like what is that like? Is that like Black Lives Matter protest? Is that productive chaos?
It was a Michelle Alexander thing, and her thing was like, if people stopped taking plea bargains, it would clog up the criminal justice system, and it would like you would have to push reforms through, because like
Amazing.
There would just be no other option. And so like I love that idea.
Yeah. And it's always so satisfying when like you find loopholes like that, where it's like you can break into well, we've seen that so much in so many different ways with the pandemic over the last 12 to 18 months, how many gaps we've got. It's really fascinating. Okay, the concept behind this next Irulan quote is something I think about a lot. And that is, consider how much is actual prediction of the waveform and how much is the prophet shaping the future to fit the prophecy. So I was like, let's use celebrities as an example, right? Some are arguably more talented than others, right? So we can probably agree that like talent and skill is not the only component that people need to achieve fame. Some would say that luck is a key factor, and then some would say like you make your own luck, which I guess you just call like tenacity. And so that seems quite often to be the key to like human success individually, is believing something, or not even individually, as a group too, believing something to be true allows you to make it true. So is Paul simply like a
I love,
tenacious visionary rather than
I love you have this complex thing. And what I wrote down for this was prophecy, chicken or egg.
I mean, that's it. I mean, that you've summed it up so much nicer than I just did. It's like it's something that I
I just like to
think
use as
about a
an
lot.
actual thought.
Because you like truly, and I understand. So like again, I'm taking this back to Witcher. Geralt is like really against the idea of prophecy because he doesn't want to feel like he's being guided toward any one given outcome. He wants to just live his life and make his choices without that hanging over his
Right.
head. So here's my question to you, Glynis. If you could be told for sure when you die, would you want to know?
See, here's my thing. On one hand, I think it would be really nice because then you wouldn't have to the big fish answer of like then you don't have to be afraid of anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But then I would worry like, well, if I'm not afraid of okay, I want to know for really selfish reasons because there's like a couple things that I'm predisposed to and I want to know if it's going to be that.
Nice. See, there's definitely like pros and cons to each decision, right? Like exactly what you said. If you know for sure that you can achieve all these other things without fear of death, then that, yeah, it makes your life so much cooler and awesome. But like also, I don't know, what's the downside? Like,
Well, and then like, but what if you got over eager and like you would have died, of X, but then because you think that you're gonna die of that thing, you get in a car accident, like you Doctor
yeah,
Strange shit or something.
yeah, yeah. I love that. Like, that's always the question, I guess, whenever prophecy is involved is like, is telling them part of the prophecy or not?
Right.
And Tenet, I don't know if you ever watched that new Nolan film.
I haven't
Like
yet. It's on my list of movies to get from the library.
it's it's all right. It's not bad. I watched it in the cinema with Dad, and it's it it touches on whether you tell people about the future or not, because
Okay.
and they in that for the most part they say like the less you know the better, because then you
That's kind
won't do
of
exactly what
where
you just
I
described.
side on is like I
Yeah,
think oh God, in the movie slash play, August Osage County, they say if people could see the future, they wouldn't get out of bed in the morning or something like that. And I agree.
yeah. And it's with this, the reason I like Dune so much is the future to me, I think is so, it's like butterfly effect, right? Like so reliant on so many different things happening. And like that's how Paul sees it. He's like, there's all these different avenues where like a misstep or like someone coughing in this fight or like whatever it might be could really change the outcome for everything. And like if you gave people the power of premonition, but without knowing what actions led to what consequence, yeah, like what the fuck would go on? It would be ridiculous. Mum says hi. She's doing I've turned this around, but it's plugged into the wall. She's hanging out washing and being cute. So,
I mean, I'm sure
where are
she's
we at?
being cute no matter what she's doing.
Oh, that's sweet. She'll love to hear that. Giselle the Gazelle says, I can't help but say the whole thing. I love it. I love alliteration. It would be like having a hard deadline for everything you want to do in life. And for me, that would just cause more stress and anxiety. Yeah, I
That's
can see
fair.
that. Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Um, yeah, so we talked about that. Stilgar shows up, and he was in that cancel scene earlier. Stilgar! Still. So
The loss of
he,
kinds is made up for by like, okay, so Stilgar's there though.
yep, I agree. Also, I don't know who's playing him, but I hope it's someone hot.
I am very excited to see who play. I'm kind of isn't Jason Momoa someone?
Oh, maybe it is. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense because you get the sense that he's like a babe.
Dude,
Just say it.
okay, like Stilgar and Jessica is some of my favorite interaction. I went back and did that one multiple times because like I love when she's like, so are we gonna have to get married? And he's like, We could, but do you want to just respect each other? Like, oh god, I thought maybe you should marry him.
It's funny because I was reading it going like, I know Glynis is gonna love this. I know Glynis is gonna love this because for once it's a dude like thinking with his brain rather than his dick, and he
Right?
has his people's best interests at heart. So like that happens in a little bit after the scene that we're on right now, but
And
essentially
I love
like
how open he is. Like one of it was Dakota's pet peeve and it's become mine. Is he's like, why don't people in movies and TVs like why don't they just tell each other stuff and be honest?
yeah,
Because 90% of conflict could be solved by talking. And like Stilgar,
exactly.
you are never gonna have to worry about that with him because like he is just like, here's what I'm gonna do, here's exactly why I'm doing it.
Yep. And he's very sincere. And like, I think that's part of why he's so appealing to Jessica is like, Jessica's been surrounded by people with ulterior motives for the past however long, whether it's
Mm.
like them thinking that they're protecting the Duke from her or whatever it might be. And now she's finally dealing with this person that like, yes, he says things like she makes a note in that one point where they're being honest with each other. And he's like, other people are listening to me right now. So I'm going to say this for you and for them, but he still genuinely incorporates his like yeah, like you said, his goals and shit for everyone, for both those audiences. Hi baby.
She
She's a
desperately wants to
star.
come and hang out, but the other cat is sitting on my lap.
Hello.
No, she can't
Oh,
do it.
you're in demand. We need to like build you a suit, like a suit of armor that's also a cat tree.
I could do that.
That was exactly the
That is
reaction I was
actually
hoping
just
for.
my life right now.
Yeah,
But
I can see that. I'm into it. I'm really jealous. I need more cats. That's all I feel like after I talk to you. Giselle says, Stilgar's sexism at first really bothered me when he's first introduced, but now he's really grown on me. And yes, I love that interaction as well. Yeah, so Giselle makes a good point, right? Like when he first shows up and they're like, so his troop and stuff's around Paul in this basin, and
oh, and he is
they
ready to kill.
yeah. He's like, you're not useful to me at all. So I'm just going to take you for your water and take your son, who I've been told to protect because I'll get a reward for that. Like he's brutal. And that's when Paul and Jessica like go full Bene Gesserit powers and whatever. And Paul runs off and Jessica's like holding this dude up by the throat up against the wall. And
I love this, like, Paul, go, and he just like Spider-Man's out of it.
it's so great. Also, like how they both sides of this are like trained in different things, and so they're both like throwing shade on each other for not having different skills. Like the Fremen are like, "Oh, he was so loud climbing up that rock wall, we could hear him from a
Right?
mile away." But then, like Jessica's got her like witchy, like sensory powers and stuff, so she can tell like where everyone is anyway, and it's sweet. I like it a lot.
This, it reminded me a lot of like the that dinner scene where it's like you have a bunch of very different people very much feeling each other out.
Yep. That's exactly what it's like. Except in this case, it's overshadowed by this like once they start proving themselves to each other, it's very respectful in a sense. Like it's way more respectful than the dinner
I
scene.
appreciate how ready Stilgar is to admit mistakes and like change his perception.
Hmm. Yeah, I like it a lot. Like
He doesn't seem like someone who gets defensive.
he's a really good lead. Like you can see why he's been picked as a leader, and they allude to that a lot with the Fremen. They're like, we'll pick someone who gets shit done and doesn't let their ego get in the way.
Yep. And he's that. Like I would
He's
vote
that.
for Stilgar.
Me too. Stuck out for president 2024. Well, Dolly Parton probably VP. What was that?
I have a Gandalf for President Button. I need a Stilgar one now too.
Oh, yes, please. Man, what would that world be like? That'd be pretty cool.
Gandalf would never want that power is the thing.
Yeah. We'd have giant
He would
moths for transport, I hope. What do I have to tell you about this bit? Oh, yeah. So Stilgar asks Jessica to teach them her ways of battle. So they're kind
Yeah.
of going to exchange, yeah, like information, and that leads to like the water bond happening again. And is it the castle of no, it's the, where do they go? I wrote this down somewhere. Cave of Ridges, I think is what it's called. Does that sound right? Yep.
Yeah.
So they, oh yeah, Paul also in this bit meets the girl from his vision described in the beginning, Chani, which is Liette's child. Yeah. And she's like already throwing shade, and there's already like some sexual tension I feel there. And he's like, oh my God, it's the girl from my dream from the very beginning. So cute.
I loved Cheney the original time I read this. Now knowing that she's going to be played by Zendaya, I am so excited.
Yes, I can see that. I can 100% see it.
I love her character.
Yeah, she just like, again, very similar to her father in terms of like, doesn't mince words. If she thinks you're inadequate, she's not going to be afraid to say that.
Paul.
Yep, yep. It's really like fun to watch Paul get embarrassed and like, yeah, blush and like,
oh God, she's pretty. She's a pretty girl.
which we've never, like, he's been exposed to pretty girls before, but he's never had this reaction to someone before. Like, he likes this girl, and it's cute. It's really cute.
Because he's a good ass, and he knows it.
Yep. Yeah, I love it. And I think it's also like we see him throughout the story like falling more and more in love with the planet. And Shani is like, again, like her father, like the embodiment of Arrakis. And so it's like the two intertwine, and he's like, I want to know more about being a Fremen and like a native. And the more I get to know this girl and understand how things work, the happier I am. It's really cute.
Yeah.
Like it. So there's like 42 of these bitches with Paul and Jess.
You haven't seen it yet. No.
What was that?
When you watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, Sokka meeting his first girlfriend, the moon, reminds me a lot of these two.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's high up on my list. I haven't even watched bloody WandaVision this week and yet, so no fucking spoilers in the chat, please.
I'm gonna watch it.
I'm gonna watch it. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it after this too. Nice. Giselle says Jessica is such a badass. Yeah, she is. I like the reminders that Paul is still just a teenage boy, even though he's this crazy, powerful prophet person. Me too. It's cool.
I love seeing a character that's like, he knows how to do this, and he's a badass, and he has visions, but also like, girl, make him uncomfortable.
That's right. And like, he's also, at times he shows like the sort of Duke strength, commanding stuff, but then there are other times where he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing. Just like a teenager. Yeah. Dakota says we should do a watch party. I would love that. That'd be really fun. Yeah. For Avatar, that'd be great. That is so true, Glynis. They do remind me of Avatar characters. Yeah. Yue. Okay, so blah blah blah. As they're leaving, they go to like Stilgar's base to exchange. Oh no!
I need to pop back to Jessica and Stilgar talking.
Yes,
I liked Stilgar saying a leader is what distinguishes a mob from a people, which seems like foreshadowing.
Yeah. And what does he say? Like that he expands on that a little bit as well. Like he really, and he, what's the word I'm looking for? Like nurtures the individualism. And you see that in the interaction that's upcoming with Jameis. Is it Jameis? Where he's like, I need to address this head on. And he actually uses a few different tactics. But I did want to touch more on that as well. What was that?
With Jameis, like he's just trying so hard. I respect his handle.
Try hard. Yeah. He's another interesting character that has a really early death, but like is really impactful on Paul's development. So he is one of the ones that is like arguing with Stilgar when they first pick them up in this basin. So they get to this place. They have Jessica and Stilgar have this conversation where they both learn they underestimated each other. Somewhere in there is another cool Irulan quote where she's like, "The Fremen were supreme in that quality the ancients called Spannungsbogen, which is the Spannungsbogen, which is the self-imposed delay between desire for a thing and the act of reaching out to grasp that thing." So they've got self-control.
So very un-American.
Yeah. And just Western in general, like we're so saturated with everything we want every day. Oh yeah, so in that conversation she has with Stilgar, she confirms that the guild bribes are happening, and it's because they don't want satellite surveillance over them terraforming slowly the planet, which is them carrying out like Liet's kind's dream of making the planet habitable for like future generations, and it's going to take forever, but as long as they keep paying the guilds, they can keep the sky free of surveillance, and hopefully people won't stop them doing it. So that was cool. And Stilgar also mentions they've got their own Reverend Mother, which is interesting. I can't remember what they call her.
Like, the seeds planted by the Missionara Protectiva, like, oh boy, those worked like real good. That has been wild. And she is not gonna like pass that by. Like Jessica is capitalizing on that.
Yeah, and it's funny because like, so she does the whole song and dance. She's like, "I'm having a vision," and like she says the words that she puts on the act. And Paul is like, I can sense her cynicism, but he's kind of preoccupied too, because when they get there, Shani's like, "Here, have something to eat," and he's like, "Oh, there's a lot of spice in this. I'm better like bunker down." It's like having a really big hit of something. I guess that's exactly what he's doing. And he kind of has to surrender himself to it, and he has this massive like freak out where he's like, "Oh, I'm getting all these visions again, and it makes me want to do nothing, but doing nothing is also a choice, which also has consequences." And he's seeing like the full I guess it's like the same as any trip where you like see how everything's connected, and you're like, whoa, it's blowing my fucking mind.
I'm really interested to see how they're gonna do that in the movie. Yeah, Lily is too.
Yeah, hi baby. Such a cutie. Oh my god, this is making me miss Phantom so much. Look at her little huggy paw. Yeah, it's gonna be really, really interesting because like I'm anticipating a lot of those standard special effects where they like zoom into someone's eye, and then there's like all the flashes of different like, I don't know,
right?
And then like flashbacks.
It ends with like, doesn't it just end with him seeing his death over and over again?
Keep seeing himself like, yeah, what a mindfuck. Like keep seeing himself. Giselle says it reminds me of when Chidi sees the time knife in The Good Place. That's exactly what it's like. Yeah, the time knife. We've all seen it. That's such a great show. If anyone likes Dune, I would 100% recommend The Good Place to them.
The Good Place is probably one of the best television programs ever.
Of all time. Yeah. There needs to be more, philosophical TV like that, because damn. And they ended it on exactly the right like note and moment too. It was beautiful. Okay, so this is when we get to my father, the Padishah Emperor, was 72, yet looked no more than 35 the year he encompassed the death of Duke Leto and gave Arrakis back to the Harkonnens. He seldom appeared in public wearing other than a Sardaukar uniform and a Berseg's black helmet with the imperial lion and gold upon its crest. The uniform was an open reminder of where his power lay. He was not always that blatant, though. When he wanted, he could radiate charm and sincerity. This is when she says, I think now he was a man constantly fighting to escape the bars of an invisible cage. Yep. So, yeah, really interesting like picture of the Emperor, and again, like he's not completely a bad person.
He seemed honestly like just a very impotent character, because the Baron Harkonnen is completely flouting his authority. The Fremen are bribing the guild. So like they're actually in control of the planet. Like it's just it seems like and yeah, like Leto died. Leto is someone you liked. So like
Mm-hmm.
it's for the you have a title, but not actually really any real power, it seems like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hence the invisible cage, right? Like you're
Right.
given, and I'm
Like
sure a
the
lot of royalty feels that way.
way
Yeah,
around.
that's right. Like you're born into all this privilege, but you have very little control over what you actually affect change in, because there's all these different people that you have to keep happy. It kind of reminds me of like the UK monarchy, because they're kind of just for show, which is like you see that with Harry and Meghan or whatever, just being like, we're out. We don't want to be a part of it anymore. Because really all it is me too. Because it's just a ceremonial way for um, paparazzi to like interfere with your personal life these days.
Right.
And like, what power do they get?
Right. You have
Yeah,
responsibility, little power.
yeah, that's right. Really, really interesting. Dakota says, I can see it. Yeah, 100%. I'm really keen to see, like, hopefully they win some Oscars with this movie.
Oh my God. If they don't, I'm already mad.
I'm already boycotting. Yeah, that's fair. Hey, should we talk about the fucking badass knife fight?
Yes.
Yes.
I think we
So Jessica has like an actual sleep. She's like, wow, I felt so safe that I like had a proper sleep. And when she wakes up, Paul's like being challenged by Jameis, and he's like, I've challenged fucking Jessica, and she needs a second, and the rules are rules, and so they get into this like knife fight, him and Paul, and it's awesome. It goes on for like pages. It's really good.
Oh, and I liked when they realized that Jessica has all this water. And she's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, you can totally have that. Like that I'm from somewhere that's not a big deal, so I didn't think about it. But yeah, please take it." Which is just another of those like, this is such a culture clash.
Yeah. It's really fascinating. Like, even when they're walking to Stilgar's like base, and they're so military, his group, and he's like, we've got newcomers with us, so be extra careful when you're cleaning up our tracks.
Mm.
There's all these little side notes where they're like, this person doesn't know what they're doing. Like the nose fit to Paul's suit is off. You need to fix that, Shani. And like there's so much stuff where they're just not, they don't, Paul notes like Jessica's demeanor, how she's like really royal and doesn't really fit in with the Fremen. It's really cool.
Like you can almost understand because it's easy to be like, oh, Jameis, what a dick. But like, I don't know, thinking about it kind of more from his perspective, like, who the hell are these people? And like they say they're important, so we just have to like bring them in when we don't have enough as it is. I can kind of get where he's coming from.
For sure. And like he spent ages stewing on it. Like he spent a whole day just sitting there thinking about it, going like, what am I going to do about this? And he's already lost to Stilgar in this challenge or combat or whatever it is. I don't know if it was
Yeah.
to the death that they fought, but
Must have
yeah,
not been.
must have not been. But whether like he killed a second of his or whatever, I'm not sure. But he, yeah, like feels like he has something to prove still. And Jameis actually, like we were talking about before, sorry, Stilgar he's like trying to defend Paul somewhat, and so he starts trying to bring some of the heat onto himself by like insulting Jameis, and
He's like, I
yeah,
see what you're doing. That's not gonna work, old man.
that's exactly it. And like that whole interaction is really heated and really tense because the whole like they're in this really cramped environment trying to protect themselves from the sun, and so there's like all these people and they're watching them, and when they have this fight in the circle it's the same thing, like everyone's around them. And then there's like all this cool delving into Jessica's really worried, but she's been told that she can't speak because she like kind of used a little bit of the voice on Jameis when she was trying to protect Paul as well. And then one half of her brain is like, that's right. One half of her brain is like, okay, he's been trained by like the best fighters in the universe, but he's still like a 16, 17-year-old kid, you know, like, and he's my son. I have to protect him.
To fight with a shield. And I love him
Yep.
thinking about like, okay, I don't have a shield, so that's a disadvantage. And then like I have this knife, but he's like, wait, how brittle is it? Does it break? And then Jameis is like, I'm gonna break my knife in you. And he's like, okay, so it does break.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
like learning as he goes.
yeah.
Yeah, and Shani's like giving him tips like, oh, he switches knife hands, watch out for that. And he like goes to the right when he parries and all that stuff. Giselle says, I find it super cowardly that Jameis wouldn't fight Jessica but insisted on fighting her 15-year-old son. How on earth could that earn him any respect in the eyes of his peers? His decisions and actions are very emotionally motivated, such a stark comparison from Stilgar's logical thought process. Yeah, and Stilgar points that out. Hey, he's like, his ego is off the chain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he's not a leader. He like fully pokes the barb in. It's kind of awesome.
You know, I kind of want to see the fight between Jameis and Jessica because I think she could take him too.
100%. She could shut him down in an instant. Like, she's such a talented. That's what she keeps saying too. She's like, if you're impressed with how my son is trained, it's because I trained him. So please respect mom. For fuck's sake. Yeah, I'm excited to see her like in that scene where she has him up against the wall and his troops freak out, because like I think that's really going to showcase physically how adept she is. And she's pregnant. I keep forgetting that she's pregnant.
The actress they have for her. Did you see Dr. Sleep?
Yes. Yeah, I saw that.
The actress who played Rose the Hat is playing Jessica.
Oh wow. She's gonna be great.
Right.
She was like the best part of that movie, apart from what's the little girl's name that hangs out with Ewan McGregor?
I'm actually like really mad at that movie though, because like they were supposed to be related and they wrote that out. And I don't understand why.
There was a lot. I remember rereading the book before the movie came out. There was a lot of weird changes in that film.
I'm gonna just see that the book was a lot better than the movie.
I think because he was like the explanation I got, because I'm a big Flanagan fan, the director, but I don't think it was his best work. And I think, yeah, like it's a good movie, but he was trying to combine two separate universes, like the book universe and the film universe.
Make it a sequel to the movie or make it a sequel to the book. What I think 100%. We need now is you need to make a made-for-TV Dr. Sleep, because I really like the made-for-TV The Shining.
Yeah. Are you going to watch The Stand? Yeah, yeah.
I actually haven't read that, but like maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I find his TV stuff is like any adaptations of King are like really hit and miss. I remember watching Under the Dome and just being so disappointed.
And that was like an amazing book. That was my first Stephen King.
Such a good book. That was mine too. Actually, no, that was my first one, and then I went to The Shining straight after that. Yeah. So, oh my god, I think that's like the best taste of King to start with, because you're like, whoa, he can write these really epic, like the whole town is involved and there's all these different intricate characters, and then The Shining is like his personal addiction struggles manifested. Yeah.
See that, and that's what I loved about Dr. Sleep, was like how it addressed alcoholism. But anyway.
Giselle also says, I love how Paul handles the whole thing. You know what's interesting, Giselle, is like, I love how Jessica handles the whole thing, because she's trying to like balance her own emotion of protecting her son while letting him prove himself as a leader. And then she does the thing at the end where she's like, okay, he can see that Shani's like into him winning this fight. The reviews are mixed because people think that he was toying with Jameis the whole time, when in reality he just didn't want to kill the dude. Now he's killed the dude. He's won. I have to make it so that he doesn't feel good about it.
They shame him, both of them.
Shame him, yeah. And it's necessary. She's like, wow, I'm glad this happened now, because this is a lesson that he needed to learn.
Right? Like, I want you to cry. I want you to remember how this feels.
Yeah. What did she say? She's like, how does it feel to be a murderer or something like that?
Yeah.
She's fucking straight up, like, just savage. And I feel it was necessary, because she sees, she's like, if I don't say something now. Yeah, that's like, exactly what I was thinking.
Shame is a really powerful motivator, and I don't think it's always a bad thing. Like, when I was in Belgium, a cop stopped me because I threw my cigarette butt. And he was like, as soon as he realized I was an American, he's like, so where are you from? And I always say Chicago because like people don't know where the fuck Eau Claire is.
Nice.
And like he's like, so would you do that there? And I was like, yeah, I mean, like everyone does. And he's like, oh, wow, it sounds like people from Chicago don't really care about their city very much. You must not be very proud. And I'm like, oh my God, sorry.
You're right. It really is like when you think about like that's got to be half of the reason that people make their everyday life decisions is shame and guilt.
Public shaming, I think, is there's a really good Last Week Tonight on public shaming that Monica Lewinsky makes an appearance in that one. But like it can be like public shame is a much better motivator to get people to not commit crimes than prison is.
Yep.
Or deterrent, that's the word.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, but I think it can be used really badly, like the way like the Gorilla Glue girl is getting like publicly shamed, like that's bullshit.
Man, that is such a weird story. And now Gorilla Glue is like, should we do hair products? Like, isn't it weird how that can change into, you know what I mean? Like, Giselle says, I agree. I think shame is a really powerful tool that can and should be used to make the world a better place. Social pressure and shame, I think, are the most effective motivator. See, that is fascinating because that is like, speaking as a left-wing hippie, that is something that a lot of right-wingers say is the wrong way to go about shit. They're like, you're bullying and making fun of people online for
That's
passing hateful legislation.
To be ashamed of.
That's right. And it's like, well, how else are we supposed to stop this bullshit from happening? Like, wouldn't you rather us shame them online than like grab the torches and pitchforks?
Right.
I don't know.
Like I've had people call me out on stuff and I felt ashamed and embarrassed and I changed my behavior.
That's right. All of us have, right? Otherwise you don't grow. I feel ashamed every fucking day of like previous decisions and stuff that I've made. But that's otherwise there's no development.
You just have to use it as a motivator and not something to just like get into a pity party.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That is excellent life advice. I don't know if I have anything to end us off on, but is there anything you want to say to like finish us?
Let's see. Oh yeah. So this end actually I think was kind of my favorite part because first we get Stilgar gives him the name Usul, which we saw
the names
in the very beginning. I think Chaney, he's seeing a vision of her calling him Usul. So like that's been brought full circle. I like that the fight brings full circle Gurney Halleck in the beginning being like, someday we're not going to pull punches. And then he picks his name. And I love he picks Mouse, which is like, that's my gamer tag.
Yeah, without even knowing that it's Moadib. Oh, that's cute. Without even knowing that it's Moadib, he's like, what do you call those little hoppy mouses? And everyone laughs and they're like, it's Moadib. And Jessica's like, holy shit, he told me that from the beginning. But then he changes it slightly because he's like, I don't want that jihad future.
Right.
Maybe if I make myself Paul Muad'Dib.
Yeah. Totally different.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
But I love that, again, we get that like whole question of, because he's still seeing visions of like flags and war and that kind of shit in his head. And he's like, I don't know if that's enough of a difference, but I'm determined to not let that happen.
I think this really seems to me like that scene in like Jesus Christ Superstar when he has the in the Garden of Gethsemane. I guess it's also in the Bible, not just the musical. That moment where he's talking to God and be like, if there is some way, take this cup away from me. For I don't want to taste its poison. Paul is very much like, if there's a way I can avoid being a messiah. No one wants to be a messiah. Messiahs never end well. And I know what the title of the sequel is, Paul. So the name change. And yeah, like I think it's just him. But I think what he's not thinking about is like the legacy that might entail. That yes, this might bring war, but sometimes war is good. Like the Civil War was good. We needed that. So yeah, like, but I get it because no one wants to be the Jesus figure.
No one wants to be responsible for like hundreds of thousands of deaths or even like one death. Like you see this one
Right?
death impact him so much to start
And
with.
if
And like
you
it's not that he
want to be responsible for that, you should not have that power. I'm
yeah.
talking about you, Sheev Palpatine.
Oh man. Yeah, I totally forgot about the naming stuff, and I'm so glad you brought that up because that is such a good way to end this section, being like, okay, I'm still getting visions of this future that I don't want. I know I definitely don't want that. But like you said, like the chance that he'll be persuaded down that way, the more he gets to know the Fremen and like their struggles and the more he integrates into that society is high because like at the moment they pointed out to him too, like this dude's water fat and like he hasn't lived in the desert his whole life and look at his face and like they're pointing out all the differences
Look at his
that he
skin.
already has.
Look how smooth
Yeah.
his skin is.
And it's going to be cool to watch him more and more like assimilate and figure out that like how much of the world is outside the realm that he is used to and grew up in and yeah,
Right.
it's pretty dope.
And that I think
Ooh,
maybe, I mean, Jessica's definitely realized that the Fremen are an army. And I
yeah,
think it'll be interesting to realize, or for Paul to get that.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, so Giselle says, I think it's really interesting how names can be such an influential part of your identity and personality. So while it may not change the future, it probably affects how he feels about himself. But it's also such a teenage boy move to think that would be a big enough difference. That's something I hadn't even thought of. Like when you think about just off the top of my head, like trans people and dead naming, or even like marriage and changing your name to signify your connection to someone. Like, yeah, names are a big deal. And like sometimes even people that have been estranged from their parents or families or whatever will just change their name so they don't, it's like their new, like you said, identity, their new, yeah,
I honestly think that governments should adopt Facebook's policy where you can just change it once every 6 months, like for free.
I agree. Yeah, that'd be sweet. Because, yeah, it's so bizarre how we, like, I look at you and I see Glynis, but why?
Right? That's a sound associated with a person.
Yeah. Like, it's because, like, someone decided to name you that. Why do people see me as a Ree? Someone
Oh,
decided to name me that.
and like I love speaking of like the significance of a name, when Stilgar talks about like it's really cool that you picked that because the Fremen love mice. Like for them, that's like oh, what's a way to not say that? Um I don't want to say I don't want to say highest on the totem pole.
But
That's a phrase
they
I'm trying to get out of my like
oh yeah,
vocabulary.
you're saying they respected some like habits
Yeah,
and survival instincts and stuff in the desert,
because
right?
like
Like they,
yeah,
yeah, because
they're number
they
one
point out
desert animal.
that's right. They point out that it like moves at night and it is really good at conserving water and it's all the things that they as a people respect. This animal is so good at. Yeah, I loved that part too. That was really cute. Also, his what did they say his name Usul meant? It was like the
The
foundation or the bottom
base.
of a pillar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the base
yeah,
of the pillar.
yeah. It's just really like fitting. It's
This is
perfect.
all, yeah, like I think that was like such a good spot to end on because that seems
Yeah,
like it seems like the end of an episode.
yeah. I would love to see this in like a HBO series. I know that'll
I'm
probably never
bummed
happen.
it's a movie, honestly, because this deserves a show. And then you could do like Dune Messiah, you could do like a mini series for each one. I don't know.
That'd be so fun. Also, did you hear this is a side news, and it's very early in production process. But do you like The Boys? Do you watch The Boys?
I watched season one and like I think it's a really good show, but it was just like a little it felt like it was trying to be very edgy,
Yeah,
almost to a fault.
I think you just summed
But
up Garth Ennis in a nutshell.
right, and that's like sometimes, but like I love Preacher. So like
Mm.
sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. I'll probably watch season two eventually. I liked it.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy season two. I totally get what you mean. Some like it's funny because like I say I'm not a fan of Snyder because he's trying to be edgy boy, but then Garth Ennis with comics is like exactly the same shit, and I love Garth Ennis. So
But this
there is
one
a
I like.
yeah, that's right. So there is going to be a spin-off from the same team that's like high school or college or something. So it's like the Vought sponsored superhero college, and I was like, I am into this. I want to see it.
I'm always 100% down for anything nerdy, especially comic books that's aimed at a younger audience. Because like, yes, get get them while they're young.
That's it. The first test is free.
Yeah. Well, and because like I love the Gifted, I love the Arrowverse because like that is what I desperately wanted when I was in like elementary, middle school, and high school, and I never
Mhm.
had it except for that
Yep.
terrible made-for-TV Gen X movie that I still love. Um,
I understand that. Like I remember growing up, especially in Australia where like nothing was available and we didn't have internet as kids. So like there's so much the world of entertainment now
right.
compared to you and I growing up is a different
And yeah,
universe.
like if you can get a like 13-year-old to care about like the high drama of Arrow, I will totally admit I had to hate watch the first two seasons. Like it was terrible. But then I was like, okay, actually now I'm invested and I love it.
Nice.
But yeah, like if you can get someone to care about that and then start reading some comics that are maybe by some, I think, better writers. It's just,
Yeah,
it
win win
is what it
win.
is. It's not trying to be anything else.
Yeah, yeah. And like there's a place for those. Like we all like watching trash at times. And
I mean, I
sometimes we
stand
like
by,
reading
I think,
trash.
like YA fantasy, I think is better than adult fantasy because like adult
Yeah.
fantasy overwritten and YA fantasy is just trying to tell you a good fucking story with some good
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah, it's funny. Who were talking about the other day that does all the Ghibli stories? Diane Wynne Jones, and then there was also Isabel Carmody comes to mind, like really good YA fantasy authors who have these like sprawling series. Yeah, I'm
Right.
with you. I agree. All right, well, I think that's us done.
That's
That
a
was
little
so
bit of
fun.
meander.
Yeah, that I'm so glad that I truly like every time we do this, I'm like, thank fuck Glynis is here, or I would be so lost because there are so many things that just they just leave my mind, and then you're like, hey, what about this really important part? And I'm like, oh yeah, let's definitely talk about that.
Right.
It's great. I love it. I love doing this with you. Also, like
Hey,
Giselle and everyone that showed up today, Dakota, Judah, whoever said not so good at trolling. I like your glasses. That was
everyone who says
nice.
nice things about me, I
Come
think
back
they really
anytime.
added to the discussion.
I agree. I 100% agree. Yeah, I think that's it. We'll be back same time next week. If you like IFLC, we're on all the social things, and the link is in the description down below in the link tree.
Want us to read and discuss other things, let us know.
Yeah, please, because we're really enjoying it, and we'll probably just end up talking about Witcher unless you tell us that you want to hear about something different. And for those that don't know, we're starting on a Star Wars RPG in Discord tomorrow, and places are filled up for that. But we do have a Star Wars group on Facebook. So if you want to come talk about any other fan things like
I
Marvel,
know you
DC, Star Wars.
you want to just come make a character to drop in at some point, like hell yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. The more the merrier. Come hang out. And yeah, that was really fun. I hope you have a really good week. Bye-bye. Now